I signed into YouTube.
All right, everybody. We are live, and it is season 7, episode 17, our first summer show.
Welcome to the longest day of the year.
That's what it is. Yes, sir.
For us in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah.
But
First
now we're
day
on
of
the
summer
downhill
today.
slide to the winter solstice and the shortest day. We're on the roller coaster. And with that, we lost him.
Or he might have tried to try again.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Looks like we got Joshua.
Hey, Joshua.
Thanks for joining in, Joshua. Hope you're doing well.
I thought he wasn't going to make it tonight. Must be on the road doing this. Oh.
I've been a little off of Facebook for a while, so I just haven't had time. I'm a little out of the loop.
Unfortunately, I've been too much in Facebook lately.
Well, you got me covered then. You're picking up my slack.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Because we're a bunch of slackers.
Yeah.
It was that was the reason I was on so much today.
Oh, there he is. And he's got his camera.
I don't know. Something was wrong with it had the wrong setting.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
I'm glad that worked. Good to see you.
It works out. Yeah, awesome.
Yay!
Yeah, we're all together.
Only have Tim via audio.
Not the same if we don't have Tim's.
Yeah. Well, it isn't a live stream unless we're having somebody with technical difficulties.
That's true. That's how you know this is live.
It was my turn.
Hey, Clark. Thanks for joining us.
Normally, I'm the one that's from the space station on Mars with the 20-minute time delay.
Yeah, well, could be.
All right. Well, this is kind of a first to come back for a summer show. First time in, I guess, 7 seasons that we've done that. So this is really cool. And we were just discussing before the show how fast it seems since our last one. But it's kind of cool.
Last week, I was like, we're coming up on a month. Should we think about a show? And they're like, it's been that long already?
Oh, God, it doesn't seem like it, but I can barely remember the last show.
Well, yeah. Why don't we get into it and into the musty things? And why don't we start with people doing updates, because it's been a month, like maybe of what you've been up to, like both in review, where we usually talk about somewhat about hobbying and somewhat about gaming. And then usually if there is some sort of beverage involved tonight, then that can be discussed as well. Does anybody, Rusty, you want to go first? We'll go clockwise.
I guess I am in the position.
You're in the 1 o'clock position.
I've been working still on lots and lots of orcs and goblin stuff. Here's 20 goblin archers from the 4th edition box set.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
The old classic designs.
Dang.
Instead of being black and green, these are red and green. They're very Christmassy.
Festive. I like that. That'll make it feel cooler.
It's coming up on Christmas in July, right? So
right. Yeah.
It's like as I have to live with my wife, she started just the other day watching all the Hallmark movies for Christmas in July. They started releasing them already. So seriously.
Well, you're so lucky.
Which means probably this week or so we're going to start seeing eggnog.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see eggnog in the store from AE.
Wow.
I usually buy 1 or 2 during the summertime. It's just like,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Didn't know it was a summer thing.
Yes, it is. And also I have on the table in front of me, I got 50 goblin warriors from the box set. And plus a couple others from the blisters that I'm working on tonight. That's what I'm still continuing on. It's taking me forever to work on those things.
Nice.
Just to show you, here's a little command guy.
Oh, yeah.
little banner. I got some stuff over here. I need to print off, and I'll have a little paper banner coming down for it. But
Cool.
I can't remember if those are Heartbreakers or Citadel ones. It's like when I got these, it's like a lot of these old goblins and stuff from way back in the day. I just can't remember because I have so many, if they're the Heartbreakers or not. So
Okay.
so I got those. I printed these off today. Oh, I got these guys.
Let's see.
Oh, Spider Raiders?
Oh yeah. Yep. Those are the critters.
Wow, those are very similar. The Spider to the 6th edition ones or the newer ones, whatever.
Yeah.
7th, I don't know.
When I did this print off, I was like, I thought when I'm looking at them in the when I was putting them together, I thought they were a lot smaller, so they'd fit on the base. They barely fit on the base.
Yeah, they're
so
squeezing in. Yeah.
So I had to put some green stuff on there to stick their
I'll
legs
pull
in.
them down. Yeah, give them more to fasten to.
Otherwise, they just go.
That's funny.
So I had that just came off the printer, which was when you sent the message. I didn't hear the message come in saying that you're starting. I just pulled off a Wyvern Rider off of the printer.
Oh,
Cool.
cool.
So the Orcs and Goblins army, I'm pretty much getting down to the last of it. On the table over here, if you watch my video, you'll see that I have 36 trolls.
Right.
That seems like a healthy amount.
Yeah. Well, it's only 4 units.
You know how many bridges they must have had to come from in order to, like, that's probably like an entire fantasy world of bridges.
No, they come in family units, so they hide. It's like it's usually a family unit. You got a male, a female, and a bunch of kids. It's like
I didn't know how that worked. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I have some stone trolls and I have some river trolls over. I forgot I was going to put them on a thing so I could show them to you, but I forgot to put them on the thing and bring them over. So I got those, and I'm thinking I'm going to buy a couple more STL files because that will have some more different kinds of river and stone trolls to add a little bit more. These have the heads it's the same ones that I shared with you, Palmer. Because the same guy that we got some of our files from. And you can have interchangeable heads, so you got different looks.
That's cool.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So
you're going to try to make a troll horde army or something, right?
Yeah, I have 2 hag trolls. And the nice thing about the hag trolls is for every hag troll you have, you get to bring another troll unit. So you can go outside the bounds of your normal allotment of trolls. They become troops. So
that's in the what are they called? In the
Arcane Journal.
Arcane Journal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's in the Arcane Journal.
One. Yeah. Okay. I haven't actually seen it and flipped through it yet.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, I actually wasn't sure what to expect with it, but I think the Arcane Journal is pretty cool. I mean, like, for the amount that it is, it gives you some extra characters, some extra magical weapons. Like, it does have extra.
Bretonian one's kind of like that for the money. Yeah, it's cool to have a couple army lists that are unique, and then some extra characters, a few magic items, some pictures. Yeah, it's all good.
They technically could release another one too. Like they could, like, technically speaking, like, that was an interesting way that they could just like keep Ravening Hordes and then just release like another Arcane Journal in the future. You know what I mean? For each horse,
I agree.
No problem with it
because it gives you some options of different. It's like I have the Tomb Kings one. And it has, the Tomb King princes. So you got the King's army instead of the regular Tomb King's army. You get the King's royal army build that you can put together.
Rusty, have you been doing any gaming lately in the last month?
No, I haven't. I haven't gone anywhere since I'm still kind of on restrictions.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
I could have done 2
painting hordes and hordes of trolls.
Yeah. I could have gone and done 2 BattleTech games since our last one, but since I not the guy that can travel.
You said it. I guess I'm gonna have to start. Not my turn yet.
Yeah. So that's where you got to get your BattleTech banner outside BattleTech. Then my drink of the night is going to be Glen Moray 12.
Nice.
BattleTech.
Yeah. So just a little bit of scotch tonight.
Scotch. Very nice.
I'm just drinking dragon fruit.
There you go.
Dragon fruit, huh?
Gotta hydrate. That's perfect for the old world. Dragon fruit.
Yeah, that's one of those shows that they, I guess, Game of Thrones, the House of the Dragon. It's the second season's dropped this last week or something. I watched part of the first season. And I was like, it just kind of made me creepy, sick kind of feeling. It was like watching it. I was like, I quit watching it.
Really?
That happens sometimes. I watch shows and stop watching pretty soon.
It's not happening. Yeah.
Yeah, the incestiousness of it is like, oh no.
Yeah. I'll talk about a show that I started watching, but I'll wait till my turn. Just because I know that we start getting too fluid in our updates, and then it just becomes the update show.
Yeah.
So how about you, Dan?
Now or later.
Yeah, exactly. How about you in your updates?
Yeah,
No pressure.
Mine will be short and sweet. No games. Big surprise.
Okay.
Working on
had my rum and Coke.
Well, I was actually out of rum. It was terrible. I had to have Jameson and ginger ale. So
oh my god,
which was very refreshing. It was freaking humid today, so I was dripping in sweat. Had to get a shower the second I walked in the door, but so did that earlier. So I'm a one drink guy, so that's where I'm at. And then work on terrain for Stalingrad of all things. But I'm down to my last 3 ruined building pieces.
Oh.
I guess it's just more of this same crap I've been working on,
Oh, nice. Yep.
Yeah. Just kind of getting some of the base colors in. So I got the last 3 pieces of that. I've got a little
nice
metal truck. These are from, is it Lado or Lado or
are those 20 mil?
It's England, from England. No, it's right close to it. I'm trying to remember because I got a heads up on it on a terrain. I was gonna see if I don't have a bolt action guy right here, but it's very close to 28 millimeter. It might be just a tick small.
Yeah, I'm saying that's about 76 scale.
No, it's because if you put it next to of course, who knows what the scale is, but I've got a Russian. I can't even think of what the name of their trucks are. They're little gas trucks. That's what they are. Gas. The single axle. It's almost exactly this size. Mm-hmm. So it's very close, and they're metal toys. I think it's LLEDO, Lado.
Okay.
It's made in England, but you can buy them for like $4 or $5 off of eBay. And they're all old, like 40s, 50s, 30s type stuff. And a lot of them have like gas company advertisements and stuff on them. Oh. So there's some sort of a collectible. I don't really, just somebody on a bolt action terrain site, a Facebook group mentioned that that's what they were using maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So I've gotten a few of them, and they just use them as terrain usually on the
Sounds
table.
Pretty affordable because some of those
they're super affordable. Yeah, and there's tons of variation, and you just type that in on eBay, and you get tons of them. And so I just go for the cheap ones because I'm just going to prime them and then I paint them. I think you've seen that truck, that green truck I always have on my Normandy table, Rusty, with the canvas over some barrels in the back. That's one of those. But of course, you always have to remember back in those days, everything was tiny. I mean, like the trucks aren't the 1-ton dualies that we have today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, it works works
You
well.
kind of think of the American trucks, and they were fairly big. So.
Yeah, well, but even like, I had a '79 Chevy, and that thing is tiny. Like, it was a 2-wheel drive full box, but they're minuscule compared to a half-ton pickup nowadays. But anywho, they do work good for the money, and yeah, they're a tick small probably, but they fit in just fine for terrain. So
Sure. Yeah.
doing that.
And I find that sometimes you put stuff I like to sometimes put stuff in the background and you really can't tell because like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like like also like, not that you can't use it anywhere, but for my superhero gaming, like I had some stuff that was in smaller scale that I would like put there and it would be in the back of the table.
mm-hmm.
And like when you're shooting a video, like you really can't tell, you know?
Yeah, and the more stuff you have on the table, I like to really cram my tables full of stuff, and it just the more you have going on, the more interest there is, and your eye doesn't go right to one thing, and it just all blends together into all this intricate detail, and that's what I like. So, I'm getting those painted up, and then the very last thing I've got is a 1/48 scale Revel kit of a Stuka dive bomber that was I picked the actual model that was used early war, and I'm going to make that into a crashed shot down for just some more terrain, and
Nice.
then I'll have enough for a 4x6 table jammed full, or I can pull some of it off, and then I'm putting a period behind the terrain for now. I think that'll got a good variety, tons of it, to the level I'm happy with. And so so I've been doing that, but the last couple of weeks I've actually been kind of busy, a lot of things going on, a few family things, a few farm things, actually, which we're going to talk about. One of the topics, I got distracted by one of my other hobbies briefly, or it's continuing, but that I haven't touched in years. So
what's that?
So that's antique tractors, full size antique tractors.
Restoring.
Yeah, restoring, working on. I'm a novice collector, if you can. Well, my wife would say I collect because I have a bunch of them.
You have a bunch of tractors?
Oh, yeah.
And some of them are like ones you wouldn't use as much working because they're antique, or you do use them?
Well, some of them you can use for some small jobs, but some of them, yeah, they could be used. They just you likely wouldn't use them now because some of them are from the 1930s. That's the ones I really like. So we could talk about that one, but that I've been messing with that some too. So in the summer, I don't have a heated shop, so if you're going to do some of that, the summer is the time to do it.
You work on the engines yourself and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. So you pretty much do all of it.
Yeah, I do all. I haven't ever done any painting, but I'm gonna start teaching. I'm gonna start learning. So,
well, I would think that would be something you might take to. Just with
well,
all the painting,
yeah,
with miniatures,
I won't be using a brush.
Yeah,
but
how about body work?
Well, the one thing that the tractors I have the most passion that I have I have 4 complete and 1 that I've got torn down that I have enough parts to make. So I basically have 5 of them, but they're 1930s. 35, 6, and 7 are the 3 years I have of the same model, and it's a Farmall F20, which has exactly 1 piece of sheet metal that's about this big by this big for the hood.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is all just cast steel. So you don't have to worry about trying to get there's not a bunch of fenders or sheet metal around the engine compartment. It's all just out there. But I've just always loved those things. I used to antique tractor pull with one of them. And it took it to, I don't know, maybe 4 different pulls at the local county fairs in the area. And so, so you work on that. I made weight brackets so I've got tractor weights that I can hang on it, weight it. Because the front end will come off the ground when, if you're getting good traction. And so you try to weight it out so that you want all your weight on the rear tires, but you don't want the front coming off, because then you got to throttle back and then you're done.
Nice.
But so I mess with that. And they're so simple. I mean, it's just simple carburation. The F20s don't even have batteries. They use a magneto system for spark. So you crank start it. So there's there's literally 5 wires on it, one to each spark plug. Well, 4, one to each spark plug, actually.
Nice.
So,
Welcome back, Games. Chris just joined.
Yeah. Hey, Chris. So that's
Hello,
kind of been me, but yeah, still into the figures. It's just I had a bunch of. I guess I did last weekend. I went to my first NASCAR race. That was exciting.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
right by.
Went over to Newton. Yeah, drove right by, and yeah, so that was exciting. We got ticket. The Iowa Speedway is a track that's about just a couple hours from me, and they opened up in 06, but they've mostly run IndyCar, ARCA, which is a smaller stock car class, and then what is called the Xfinity series, which used to be Nationwide, which used to be the Busch series. But this year was the first year they were running the Cup drivers, the top NASCAR guys. And so last fall, my brothers and I got tickets, and it was finally for now. And
nice.
Yeah, it was sold out. It was a night race, and it was a blast. So
That's
was
great.
Yeah, so that was fun. But yeah, otherwise just working.
I almost got picked up some tickets to the Saturday, Friday and Saturday races.
I was at the Saturday race. I went to the Saturday and Sunday race, but I didn't go to the Friday race.
Yeah, because it was at Friday with the ARCA.
Yeah, Friday was ARCA, and then Xfinity was Saturday, and the Cup was Sunday.
Because I could have got tickets through VetTix.
Oh, I was wondering how you could get tickets because it's been sold out for a bit. So
yeah, it's an organization that helps out veterans. You can get discounted or free tickets by.
Should have went.
Yeah,
they're coming back next year. Sounds like it was super successful, so they're gonna try to bring them back for another one.
Back to Rusty Wallace's track.
Back to Rusty Wallace designed track. Yep, good times.
So, Tim, how about yourself? What's an update for you for the next month?
Well, I've been working on some Dark Age stuff.
Nice.
And as a matter of fact, I got Dark Age figures on the table right in front of me right now. Where'd they go? I just finished up these guys. I just did a video.
Yeah.
It'll drop tomorrow. Well,
dang.
Well, I saw pictures.
Yeah.
I remember I saw pictures recently.
Yeah. I posted the pictures of it. I got all 16 of them done. I got a couple empty spaces on this base, and I'm going to fill that with like a standard bearer, one of those really nice standards you get from LBM transfers. Yeah, one of those real nice ones. I think I'm going to be using a standard bearer out of the Victrix Saxon bag, basically. But yeah, they had like now these are all metal miniatures, so the transfers didn't exactly, fit on the metal shields.
Oh, it looks all right.
Yeah, they look really good.
Yeah, I had to like paint some trim color around and stuff like that. Yeah, I talk about it because I don't know if you can see very well here, but this guy, well, let's see if I get my hands right. Okay.
There you go. Right there. Looks very good.
This guy on the back, that transfer went on really well. It tapers a little bit more, much like the guy on this end. It tapers a little bit more. But the guy right here with the red shield, it's a little bit more rounded. And so the transfer really didn't fit very well. So I had to paint a lot more around it. And I didn't have quite the right shade of red. So I might go back and wash over it before I put a seal on these guys. But
yeah, just blend it a little. Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. Did I have the Italian War stuff for the last video that we did? The Swiss pikeman. I know I posted some videos.
Yeah, I think you showed them.
Did I show them on the Musty?
I was thinking so, but I could sure see them again if you want to show them.
I can't remember if I had them done.
I was just thinking you did, but
Yeah, it's like when you go through things, you just forget
It was
what you've done.
it was like a pike block, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I did these guys. I finished these guys up. Whoop, go this way. Yeah. Did I show you that, those guys? Yeah. I did that. And I worked on those Marauders. I got more and more Marauders.
Mm-hmm.
I do love the Marauders.
More Marauders for marauding.
Yes, I remember you sharing that.
Yeah, I love those guys. So I got 4 units of 16 Marauders.
Oh wow, that's really good.
So 4 units or one big massive horde.
That does damage. Yeah.
Nah, no, I don't know. Been working on Dark Age stuff. Got in Flames of War game. I use my North African British forces, and those 88s and Flames of War will mess up a Crusader in a hurry.
Go through one side, not the other.
Yeah, just as I said in the video, they pops when you cook them. And that was fun. And I also, I'm giving it away on the video. I got some more Flames of War stuff in today in the mail.
No way.
Nice.
Yeah, I got some 6-pound anti-tank guns, the 17-pounders for later on in the North African campaign, and then more Crusaders, because I was a little shy on my Crusader troop in command, and so I needed a few extra Crusaders. So now I got my proportions right for the game and stuff. So
have you been playing that for a long time?
For about a year or so, off and on.
Oh, okay.
And, I kind of enjoy.
I've never heard you mention Flames of War before.
Well, it wasn't really like a big focus.
Mm-hmm.
We just kind of dabbling in it. Actually, what got us started was that Gale Force 9 had that tank game. It just called Tanks.
Yeah. Tank Wars or Tanks. Yeah, that's right.
It was just called Tanks. Mm-hmm. And we first played that, and that was kind of fun. It was kind of a beer and pretzel sort of roll the dice, watch what happens. Just nothing but tanks. Then we decided to try this because it had everything. It's got aircraft and artillery and everything. So
cool.
That's been kind of fun. I kind of like that, but I like war games where the forces are kind of comparable.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you do late war, World War II, actual historical late war. If you're playing the Germans, good luck. Just good luck. It's just not. If you're being historically accurate and you're doing, what are they, Rusty? What do they call that when we have games?
Asymmetrical.
Asymmetrical. That's what I'm looking for. If you're playing it asymmetrically, then good luck.
Yeah. Because
there's a tipping point, and after that, it's a moot point to play. If you're doing it historically accurately.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the early parts of conflicts where a lot of things are up in the air. I like transitionary periods like the Renaissance period where you can have cannons and handguns and crossbows and archers,
pikes and archers, and
you could have that whole mixture. That's why I went for the Empire when I played the Old World.
Yeah.
All you got to do is add a little weird into the World War II, and then all of a sudden
there you go.
Now you don't have to worry about the imbalances. I've got werewolves, buddy.
Are you talking conflict 47?
Zombies? Yeah.
There you go.
I got a dreadnought that looks like a Sherman.
Yeah.
But it walks.
Yeah.
The walker.
So, sorry.
Yeah, we had some of the guys when I was last time in March when I was out at Game Castle. There was some guys playing Conflict 47.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you see it going on.
Yeah. It's
kind of a
one
fun
of those
thing.
games that where, if you got a lot of historical World War II stuff, you just have to throw in a little bit of the weird stuff, and you got your
It's
force.
it's kind of fun. It can scratch both itches, right? Like you can throw in some dreadnoughts, and you can use all your World War II stuff.
Yep.
Dan doesn't look convinced over there. I was looking at his face. He's like he's breaking out into a rash.
Like, Dan says, I wholly disapprove of this, and I want you to know I disapprove.
Oh, you guys are breaking up.
So
no, that's all cool. It doesn't personally interest me, but I'd play it.
And I was just looking at your face and your body language as we started getting deeper into it. The discussion.
It's like he smelled something really bad. It's like,
what's that smell?
How does that smell?
What is
I
that
think that's
smell?
Conflict 47 I smell.
Can't seem to find where it's coming from. Oh, I know I smell it.
I think I just elicited it.
Coming
he
from
just got an
Tim's
immune
screen.
response.
I have never played Conflict 47.
I haven't either.
And I don't play Bolt Action. It's all Flames of War 15.
Yeah.
The little small millimeter guys.
So I had to play Wolfenstein, but
God, that goes back a ways.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's old. 80s.
Well, just mention we got Clyde Dashing has joined us. Thanks for joining us tonight, Clyde.
Yeah, Clyde.
And so we'll hit the comments pretty soon, but I'll do a quick update as well. I've already I'll start with the Musty drinks because I've already been drinking it, but I got myself a Rolling Rock that I was just basically starting the evening off with here. But I actually will be moving into a proper Musty drink with some Jameson after that. It is summertime. It's not a one beer night for me. So, and so this is one of our first summer show ever. So there's that. As far as gaming goes, I have played more Saga since we last had a show, and but I primarily been playing Old World, primarily against the dwarves with my beastmen lately. Against two different players, both dwarf players, and so I have had games with those. For painting, I have. I don't want these to fall and break, but my work in progress is sort of like I was working on Savage Orcs. I think at the time of the last show, I finished those, but I've got these guys that I'm working on. This is just a sample of them, and I'm working on these guys on the show tonight. So basically, Black Orcs. Which kind of like Biggins because they're pretty big, but
they look green.
That's true. Well, actually, there's so little green on them, but in comparison, I'm going to be working on their skin tones tonight to lighten them up a bit. This is kind of dark right here, but I'm kind of doing them as bad moons because they've got the yellow on the command group. They've got more yellow. Occasionally, there's a little skull that's yellow on the other guys. Otherwise, they're black and metal. But the command group is got a lot of the yellow accent on them, but not much to see right now. But yeah, enjoying painting these. They took a little bit for me to start enjoying them, getting through the base painting. One of the things about them is they're the least orky looking not because of their size or their decor, but you don't see as much of the skin. Because of the fact that they've got so much armor, even their face is just covered with a helmet. But I'm enjoying it, and what I've got that I'm working on the side with is I've got this Gorgon. Now this is a plastic model, and it was not available for 6th edition. For the Beastmen, but now it is a good unit in Old Hammer, and it was available for 8th edition for Beastmen. I was gifted this from a friend, but it was primarily unpainted. It was mostly black primer with just a few things that were painted in, and I've painted over the skin that they had done. I'm still just on the first base paint. I have a fair bit to still do on this, but I'm just basically trying to go over the paint job that was given to me. Even the base wasn't painted. It was just basically 3 colors to get it on the table kind of paint job is what it had. And so I'm working a little bit more on it. I also have a box set of this brand new where I can either do this, it has 2 different versions of the model. One's the Sigurd and one's the Gorgon. So what I don't know if you guys ever feel this way, but what I've been doing is once I've done like a stage of these orcs and I'm done like for the day in my head, like with these orcs, like painting them assembly line, sometimes what I'll do is like I'll be watching YouTube or something and I'll just work on that instead. Like, you know, I'll just kind of switch gears and just work on that a bit. And I find that I get more painting, some extra painting done, even if it isn't. I knew that I wasn't going to do any more orcs no matter what. I was just going to like go upstairs and do something else. And so instead, I just will just spend a little bit of time picking up something new that day, and I get a little more productivity done. So I've been doing that.
Saves on the burnout.
Yeah, it helps a little bit. And let's see. That's about it as far as painting and then and gaming for me. So yeah, that's my update.
You had a game recently, right?
Last week I had an old world game. Is that the one you mean, like the dwarf one? Or yep. Yeah.
Did you say all about the thing you said you were going to save for when it was your turn? What was that?
Oh, what was that?
I don't know.
I don't even know now. Oh, it was a show. It was a show. I don't know. We were talking about a lot of different stuff, and you were talking about shows and stuff. I've been watching that show Dark, D-A-R-K on Netflix. It's a German show. Have you guys seen that? It's science fiction.
I've heard of it.
I haven't heard of it.
It is really good. Like really, really good. I've been watching it as I've been working out. Like because I like when I'm working like on the treadmill or whatever. Like I like to have something. I like to have a series that I watch, like, you know, when I'm working out.
Yeah.
And I'm on the 2nd season of it. It's 3 seasons, and it's like really, really good. If you're like science fiction.
It's not subtitles, is it?
It is. And
okay.
My wife thinks I'm crazy for reading subtitles while I'm on the treadmill.
That's what I had to ask.
Yeah, but I still really like it. Yeah, I do.
That's cool.
Yeah,
it's crashing and burning today.
I fell off the treadmill while I was reading subtitles while I was watching a movie.
Oh, really? Oh, gosh. Hopefully it wasn't bad.
No, I was just thinking if you might do that. That's not a good story to tell.
No, it hasn't happened to me yet.
How'd you get hurt? I fell off the treadmill.
Yeah, I always, when I had my treadmill, I'd always watch like a half-hour comedies.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Because that's what I do is about a half hour on there.
I don't have a treadmill.
I used to have, I burned out 3 treadmills over my time.
Mm-hmm.
I just walk with my job.
It's we have snow easily 8 months out of the year here, so having something that I could do consistently is kind of good for me. But
most definitely.
But yeah, so I don't know about you guys, but maybe what I'll do is we'll just quickly go through the comments that we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
Just real quick, and then we'll start with our first topic.
One up there.
I'm not going to do sort of the introduction ones. I do know that Joshua may have left because he said that he could only join for a little bit. He stopped in and said,
"Yeah,
well, I'm not
he's
sure.
driving.
He may not be here." But since then, Clyde said in regards to Tim's discussion on Flames of War, I think is what it was, 25 powder guns or go home, is what he said.
Yeah, the British 25s do a heck of a number on somebody.
Yeah.
Clark says, speaking of Conflict 47, Andy Chambers got hired on as a lead developer. Oh, that's actually...
Yeah, I heard that. That's exciting, really.
It's amazing.
If you can stomach the genre.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's how rumors get started.
My stomach's turning.
We hear that guy Dan Booman. He's against all things
I got
weird.
no hate on that.
Oh, hate and no love.
No hate. No hate.
Clyde forgot his drink. I'm hoping by the time that he posted this that he's gotten it and has come back.
He's been able to rehydrate, yeah.
Chris says, Palmer, you're missing out on the big BattleTech event at the box. Haha. I guess, it's funny. I didn't even know about it. I guess I put my blinders on. But BattleTech is actually popular at the Sentry Box. And it is popular in Calgary. And so that doesn't surprise me.
I know that a lot of the guys that are from Catalyst are making their rounds around the world, which is kind of cool. I've met them many times at the conventions, but
cool.
Because they would say, "Oh no, here comes the Iowa crew," as we were well known.
So, Chris says I bought a walking pad to get my walk in the winter. So is that different where it's not motorized? Like you do the walking? Is that what a walking pad is? I just guessed. I'm not sure.
It's an extra apartment. It's the pad that you go to. You walk in the pad.
I just walk outside in the winter.
It's like a flat. I bought a walking flat. Yeah. Clyde says I had to get a drink so I could drink to BattleTech. All right. Well, I guess we're going to have to do that because we just mentioned BattleTech.
BattleTech.
There we go.
Drink. Hydrated.
So, I guess we've got Catalyst is at the store, is what Chris says.
Yeah, so they must be making the rounds.
Yeah. But like I said, it is popular. And you guys know Lord Draconin Brad. He comes on the show quite a bit. Yep. And he is into BattleTech, and there's a number of others in Calgary. So, cool. All right. Well, with that, we do have 2 topics tonight. I think maybe I'm just going to throw out there that maybe we'll do the first one will be the one that's first on our list here. That's more of a wargaming topic first. And so, Rusty, do you want me to read it? But I think this was maybe one that you were involved with generating.
This one, I think Josh was the one, or Chris.
Oh, okay.
The 2 that gave me this one.
So this one was from the audience, from Joshua. So I'm going to read it out. Is it possible that there's too much detail on the figures for the average wargamer? I'm not talking about painters or collectors. I'm talking about people who want to roll dice. Personally, the details are too time-consuming for me. I tend to clip a lot of these little pouches and skulls off the figure before priming. I've also started to wargame in smaller scales as they paint up much faster so I can enjoy the hobby of wargaming much faster. This is a multifaceted hobby, and I think that concept gets lost when sculpting figures. I'm not sure that was Joshua.
I thought that was you, Rusty, but it doesn't matter.
It sounds like it was you.
No, it was sent to me, and maybe it was Chris. Somebody sent it to me.
Somebody sent it to you. Okay, somebody sent it to you. Okay.
Perfect.
So, who would like to talk about that first?
Well,
fire away, Rusty.
I'll add my little 2 cents worth because it's been on my mind for a long time.
Long time. What's the context of that expression coming from the rest?
I've been working with this baby.
Like Highlander, long time.
Yeah.
If you do commission painting, you want the models as simple as possible. And then when you get a lot of these GW models, which are the prime culprits of this problem, is that they seem to just. You ever look at Lord of the Rings? And I just recently seen Lord of the Rings in the theater. Yay!
Again.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That would be awesome.
You see Sam walking around. He looks like a tinker. He's got everything imaginable. He's probably carrying an extra 100 pounds of stuff on his back. And that's how I feel that most of these models is that they have so much stuff on them. And if you're trying to paint somebody's stuff for them, and you're like, okay, it's like if you're doing assembly line painting and then you have all these models and they're all different. They all have stuff on them. It's like makes it hard. And then like bolt action is a good example. You got your basic trooper, and then, or even 40K for that matter, they have all the extra bits you can glue on. Like, you think I'm going to glue all that extra stuff on? No.
Oh, yeah. Or, I mean, no.
Oh,
yeah, I want more.
Yeah, I usually had as much. Remember, wasn't there a Reaper miniature or Ralpartha or something? It was named whatever, the well-equipped adventurer or something.
Yeah,
And
so
this is
it was
back like in the 80s, and they had like literally everything hanging off of them.
Yeah, it's the same exact thing. It's like when you look at Sam in Lord of the Rings movie, and he's just like, he's walking around. It's like, how he can't sneak up on anybody. He's like, clink, clink, clink. You know, everything's rattling around on him. But
Well, the supply wagons are way behind. They got to carry what they need, Rusty.
yeah,
Hey, man, they're going to starve.
it's like, how come you're bringing this big giant pot to cook in? Well, just in case I find something to cook something in it.
A brace of conies.
Yeah.
Brace of cones.
I likes mine raw.
All right, raw. He had his salt. Remember, he almost fell off the mountain trying to catch the salt
Oh, yeah. It's
from
like,
the Shire.
you never know when you're going to have to use it.
You never know.
It's like, what is this, Sam? Salt. It's spices.
It's the
That's
finest,
Frodo.
finest salt in all the Shire.
But yeah, I'll leave it at that for the moment and let somebody put their 2 cents in.
Well, it's funny. I guess I'll say a few things. I thought about it because when you first put that question out there, I was like, well, no. But then I'm like, okay, but listen to the question, or the statement. And it's like, for the average, the war gamer that wants to just, or even take it, it's a whole, you got everything from the person that all they want to do is paint, Golden Demon quality display pieces, or they sell them or whatever they do. And that's their passion, down to the person that's like, I can use wooden blocks or anything. For the love of God, don't make me paint miniatures, So you've got everything in between that. But there is a large chunk of people that do enjoy the spectacle that is tabletop gaming, with at least some amount of realistic terrain and some painted miniatures that look like knights or goblins or whatever. And and those are the people, because I like on my World War II figures, I like the ones that have a lot of gear on them, because there's still not a lot of gear on a World War II figure anyway. But at the same time, I think the only real company or miniatures that I see that take it to that level is almost literally Games Workshop.
Yeah.
And I think they do largely do it because that's what they're known for, the best minis on the planet. And if they mean by best having, crazy detail and, dynamic poses, they have that. There's no doubt about that. But hanging on more skulls and a whole bunch more pouches. I mean, like the questing knights, for the love of God, can we go back to 5th edition? Anyway, so it doesn't have to be busy just to make a good miniature. And there's plenty of people that don't, or unable or unwilling to paint that much detail. And there are simpler miniatures out there. So there are, but that's of course the elephant in the room is always Games Workshop, that their stuff is just, it's gotten super elaborate. I mean, kind of, not that things need to be monopose, but they don't have to have that much on them, So I would say, there's some of the, like, Games Workshop has taken it probably to the extreme and they are catering to the collector and the painter, obviously, in my opinion, because the people that game can put 3 colors on and call it good. And like you said, don't hang on the extra bits, or just paint it in with the same color as the cloak and don't worry about it. So you can get by with that, but the problem is you're paying for that detail. So that's unfortunate if that's a game system you want to play, and you want to play in a Games Workshop store or tournament or whatever, then you're kind of stuck with needing to use those. But for most everything else, you can use, I think that's part of what they mean, like by old school miniatures, is it's simpler, hand sculpted, that kind of thing. I guess I don't mind the details, but I haven't painted any of the newer Games Workshop stuff that's kind of, in my opinion, over the top when I look at they're gorgeous. But like, on my knights, the Bretonnian Knights, the 5th edition ones, are quite simple, but I enjoy hand painting on the complex heraldry. But because that irritates me to no end that they have the shield on the 6th edition Knights. It's like, I want a plain canvas that I can put my own design on without having that on there. Why did they put that on there?
Yeah.
But some people like it, and it gives them some direction, and that's fine. It just, for me personally, I don't like that. Keep it simple, and I'll add some details or decals or whatever I want for that. But yeah, for somebody that wants to paint up horde armies, or large armies, of course you could argue that for Napoleonics. Then what about those gentlemen? Even the most basic, I think Victrix would be considered, maybe more simple type Napoleonic miniatures. But how simple can you make a Napoleonic miniature? They're just, unless you put them in greatcoats, there's just a lot going on there. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd say there's enough selection out there that if you don't want to have that much detail, that's fine. But if you're a painter, or you're just really love the fine little details, then there's miniatures out there for those people too. So I don't know. I never feel overwhelmed with what I've got, and I'm not painting the most complicated sculpts out there, for sure. So I don't know. I don't know if that was just kind of I don't know what my end thought is that basically, I guess I like a fair amount of detail and equipment, but I haven't painted some of the stuff that probably people would say, well, what about that one? I'd probably be like, yeah, that's a lot. More than I would care to do. Even if it was a knight or something I was really into, I'd probably be like, sometimes they just look too busy and too, like, why are they carrying that? They shouldn't have 4 swords stuck on their back and a backpack and skulls hanging from here and pouches. And it looks like they're, going to Boy Scout camp or something. I don't know.
They're going camping and they're carrying everything, including
a
sink on their back.
I don't mind like the bolt action if they've got, a haversack or something, and an entrenching tool, and stuff that you would have hit the beaches with, or maybe not. A lot of times they'd leave their gear behind when they were going on, on a mission or something, but like, sometimes they had all their gear with them too. So, but even then they didn't have that much stuff.
A good example is in Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, they leave their gear when they go assault.
They're about ready to hit where the radar station
42, the radar station. Yeah,
they're about ready to hit it, and they drop everything except for a couple of haversacks to carry grenades and ammo.
Extra ammo, yeah. So I guess I would say there's enough out there that people can probably find what they like. If they like the details, and a lot of the plastic miniatures, like you said, the bolt action ones, World War II and stuff, you can add as much or little as you want. I like to add a few ammo pouches and, some things. I think just partly because the World War II uniforms are so drab, that gives you some slightly different colors to paint on the miniature.
I'm just going to interject 1 second. Sorry. Whoever's got their phone, if I check my phone, but somebody's phone's blowing up. If somebody wouldn't mind putting it on silent.
Good call. That's me. Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. It could just be grating for some audience members that are checking their phones too, to see whether or not they got messages and stuff. Sorry about that. Call. I didn't mean to stop your train of thought. I apologize.
Nope. That was good. That was my fault. So I guess I don't remember what I was saying, but anyway, you can.
Sorry, Dan.
No, that's fine.
That was my way to shut you down, buddy.
Yeah,
no, just kidding.
Yeah, totally sidetracked.
Well, I'll let somebody else go anyway. I think I kind of said what I was kind of thinking.
So Tim,
Yeah.
Your thoughts.
Well,
Thoughts. There ain't no
Well,
thoughts.
I agree that there are genres out there that all the intricate detail that they put on there is kind of somewhat part of their storyline of their miniatures. Um, when you see any form of chaos is just dripping in skulls and bones and all that kind of stuff. That's I can see that as part of it. But the problem when you're doing like an army, if you're doing like a skirmish game and you say your entire force is like 5 guys, well, a lot of detail where it's really now my phone.
That wasn't me.
That was my phone. That was my phone blowing up. My goodness. All right.
Yeah, if you're doing a skirmish force, you only got a handful of models that can be. I don't mind them being just totally decked out with all kinds of details.
But when you get into armies, World War II, ancients, if I'm doing a big pike block, maybe if I've got them to where I know what my front rank guys are going to be, and if they've got like little pouches or something, or some guys that are going to be in the back, but mostly the guys on the inside, I'm not going to do that level of detail for the interior of a block of pikemen. I'm just not going to waste my time on it. I may do the periphery guys if they've got a few extra things, but it's not what I would go out of my way to look for in a model.
Right.
That being said, I take no umbrage to those who love that sort of thing and that sort of intricate detail, and they take their time and that one model. Now, I can't remember. It's been so long since I played a Games Workshop game, especially 40K. But didn't some of their latest, like, oh God, I can't even remember what they're called now. The chapter leader dudes, whatever they were called.
Oh, chapter masters.
Chapter masters and all that. They were always dripping with stuff all over them.
Yeah.
And I can see a model in even in a large force that just kind of stands out. Okay. But
your hero types are going to be.
Yeah. But for me, I don't have that sort of need for that sort of thing. I don't play the games. I'm the guy that would say, I'll play this with colored blocks of wood, if I have to. If I have to, red and blue, green and white, I don't care. We'll figure it out. But if I'm going to paint a single miniature and I'm going to take my time on it, that detail doesn't bother me. But if I'm going to do an army, boy, it just seems like, maybe the front rank guys and then everybody behind, they get what they get, and let's move on.
It's like right now I'm painting itty bitty little eyes on these guys.
Yes, I never paint eyes. I hardly ever paint a face. I am never going to paint a 28 millimeter. I do like a beard and maybe the eyebrows if they don't have helmets and stuff. But as far as doing their eyes, and I actually saw a guy that he did one, and I looked at it and I thought, God, is that like a 54 millimeter or something? Because it had like 5 o'clock shadow that was defined. Come find out it was a 28 millimeter with a 5 o'clock shadow, and I thought, you know what, good for you, but I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
I'm not doing 5 o'clock shadow on a 28 millimeter miniature. Give me some good colors. That's why I love guys with helmets. Exactly. Give me a guy with
You got a helmet on, your eyes are not getting painted at all.
That's right. I'm going to stuff some wash in there, and there you go. But yeah, I again, it's one of those personal preference things that.
Yeah, there's no wrong answer.
But now, if we're talking about the ability to create complicated miniatures just for the sake of creating a complicated miniature, now that is something I would be completely against, because if there's no rhyme or reason for it within what the game that you're playing, then somebody's just doing it because they can.
Well, but is it done because it's for the painters, though? You know what I mean?
Maybe they're just trying to get theirs to stand out to sell.
Yeah, you know, because some people that's drawn to
I
that.
got to do this one-upmanship stuff.
Yeah.
I got to have even more detail and even more folds
right.
and more skulls or bones or tattoos or whatever it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could do that. They could fall into that thing where, like with the 3D printing, is so good. The technology is to be applauded.
Mm-hmm.
But again, just because we can, should we?
Well,
I mean, is it something?
Yeah.
Because I just can't imagine there's a lot of market for that kind of over-the-top detail and complexity within the model itself.
It's like when it comes to painting, you're going to have a small percentage of people that will want that detail.
Oh, well, yeah. Kudos to them. But
and then
so
there's
would it not sell if people didn't want it, or are you saying they're forced to buy it if they want to play the game?
No, what I'm saying is that the manufacturers are competing with themselves.
Yeah.
Customers are going to be there because the games exist.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they look over and say, these guys are producing this level of complexity and people like that.
Mm-hmm.
So to stay competitive, they up their complexity. They add the bones and the skulls and the extra guns and knives and belts and buckles and straps and pouches. And,
So now you're looking at competition between different manufacturers. So if you got Games Workshop is raising the bar when it comes to, they're creating their stuff for the painter. Right. So they say, yeah, we're a miniature company that has some games. Now, if they design their stuff for the miniature painter that wants that high detail, then the rest of us are getting dragged along to take advantage of that or not. And then you got the competition between. So, oh, geez, if my stuff I'm marketing needs to attract attention, I have to do what this company over here is doing. So they have to raise their ante. So it's raising the bar in some ways when it comes to quality of what we're purchasing. But it comes at the cost, literally, cost of cost.
Mm-hmm. I want everything that they have to have a purpose. So that's why, for me, I have faded away from that sort of gaming and that sort of painting because it just doesn't interest me at this point in my life. Now, when I was younger, when I first got into 40K and had your Chaos Lord dripping in all kinds of stuff,
skulls of his enemies.
Yeah, and let's see, what was the one they had a kid? Was it Karn the Betrayer or something? That was, he had like a cloak of skulls or something and bones, and there was one of those characters in the
Yeah.
I forget which one it was. It was obviously it was a Corn character.
Yeah, it was
but,
Karn.
Yeah,
Karn. Yeah, it definitely should be. Karn would be one of them.
yeah, Karn
They
the
have
Betrayer.
other ones too. The Corn is filled with corny
Skulls for the
corny
skull.
skull knights.
Blood for the blood god.
You got it.
Well, I guess I actually am in agreement with much as what you guys said, and to some degree, Tim, like I because I feel like we have a lot of things in common, like on the show, like the four of us, like from like in the Musty group. I mean, we have different opinions, but we do like a lot of the same things, and so I actually feel like I understand where you're coming from and agree, with the personal taste, with I also understand when seeing the old world come out and then like seeing people that like Age of Sigmar that started gaming after old world, but in the Age of Sigmar kind of time, that when I look at forums, and there are many people that not only much prefer plastic models, but also look at the older sculpts that we really like, and they feel like they're getting ripped off if that's what they're being sold today.
Yeah.
It's brand new. And they feel like the models that have come out afterwards are much better because of the detail and all the things that we're saying are not necessary for us and that we don't like. And I'm very much in alignment with what you guys have said. You guys kind of know the stuff that I'm into. But I also kind of get that there's like a whole group of people that might as well be aliens as far as their interests go, like within the miniature hobbies compared to me,
Right.
in their market. Like,
Sure.
and so I'll give you an example. This is not new, but this thing I showed today, I really don't like this model that much. Like, it's okay, but it's just because I have it and I'm painting it, like, it's cool, but it's just, this thing came to me snapped off. There's a little piece on top that was snapped.
Okay.
While I was painting this, I don't even know where it went or what broke, but something on this broke and fell to the floor just as I was painting this. There's so many frilly little pieces.
Yeah.
That like there's so many little things like you were talking about, Tim, with all the spikes and everything. There's so much on this. And when it broke, like normally, if I'm working on something this was gifted to me, but if I'm working on something that I really like a model, and if I've chosen to paint this and I bought it, if something breaks on it, I kind of become a little kid and jump up and down. Like, like I don't like when that happens. But when this happened, I was like, well, whatever. Like, like there's nothing I can do about it. I was
that's just one less thing I gotta paint.
I was like truly like, whatever, a skull fell or some strap with a spike and something fell and broke, but it's fine. And it's just, there's so much hanging off of this. And so it's kind of like, yeah, like I'm not crazy about I don't like models that can get like damaged overly easy. And like, and there's that aspect to not liking that level of detail. But then there's another component too. I have found that a relaxing pastime for me is to go back and look at the old painting tutorials that were in magazines and books that I would look at when I didn't know how to paint. And to watch people explain and to show the stages. And I find it, I know people on the channel, when I've talked about this in the past, some people thought I'm a little crazy because like I don't need it, they would say, but it's something about the hobby that when I see people that are really good painters present how to paint something with basic techniques and show the stages, I get a little enraptured. Like I just really like it. And I like to look back. I like to reground into old techniques that I maybe have moved away from. I like to just go back to the basics sometimes, and I enjoy it. But when I think about the new models, they used to have like you'd have like an old wood elf, like, with like, let's say the bow and the cloak, like from like 5th or 6th edition plastic, that would just be all monopose and rank up. And you could get like 6 of them or 3 of them and with a bunch of paints and a brush, like in a box, and learn how to paint them. You know what I mean? But these days, I think that they might have used the Age of Sigmar. I don't know if they're called Liberators or not Custodes. They're like the, like whatever.
Eternals.
The Stormcast Eternals. I think they must have chose them because they didn't have a ton of stuff hanging off of them. Like, so somebody new could just throw some metallics on them or something. But I think that the more elaborate you get today, when everything becomes more elaborate, there is a little bit of an injustice to the new painter, because like, I do think that it's better when you could paint something simpler as your first miniatures. And so from that perspective, because part of the question was about new people coming in, and I do think having the availability within the major manufacturers for simple models that you can learn to paint on probably is a benefit. From that perspective. So I kind of, otherwise I would just kind of agree with everything you guys said. Like, I don't really need to go any further, just because I like my old miniatures. I like simpler stuff. And some of that's just an aesthetic liking too, like that's just a reflection of what we're used to and what we like.
Just describe the 40 something old plastic goblins I have sitting here that are from the old 4th edition box set. That's like extremely simple. There's not a lot of, there's details on them, but they're kind of weak details for that matter. But
well, I think it's got to be harder for somebody that's new to the hobby to come in, because I mean, at least like when we started, or even up until not that terribly long ago, I mean, if they did have plastic kits, they weren't even like really multi-part. It was like maybe you put a couple arms on and glued them to the base.
Yeah.
It was just, they were just, and like now if you open up some of those kits, like you're going to start playing, a Games Workshop game in particular, but even any of them now, they've made these kits so complicated so that you can make all these different I mean, they're great for people that are, super skilled hobbyists, but now
you're looking at
not only do you have to figure out painting, but you got to be like a modeler, and you got to figure out how to glue and what kind of, like you go onto some of these beginning sites, like even for board games that have miniatures like that Shadows of Brimstone, where you got to glue the minis together, and there's people like, well, what kind of glue do I use? Where do I get paints? What, I mean, they're 4 miles from playing the game, just trying to figure out the miniatures. Most of our first miniatures, I'm sure, unless they were like Airfix or something, were just one-piece metals.
Yeah,
and we could kind of learn that a little bit at a time. Now they dump you right in the deep end.
And have you noticed how the sprues themselves, when they, especially for Games Workshop, they're so condensed.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's almost like what part goes with what.
Yeah. I mean, they're more for advanced hobbyists. I mean, there's no two ways around that. When you think that, and I don't care if if you're talking about like a 12-year-old kid, or if you're talking about a 30-some-year-old guy that's never, or gal that's never built a model before, it's got to be daunting. Not only is it expensive, but everything you need just to put your first unit together. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I'm just thinking, I came from I started building, cars, model cars and airplanes.
Yeah, that's where I started.
Back in the 70s as a kid.
I don't even know if that's a thing anymore.
And my first time I ever really started delving hard into kit bashing and stuff is when I had the Millennium Falcon, the big giant model.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
and I put that thing, before I put it together, I was like, how can I put some lights in this thing? So I actually rigged it with lights and everything, so it would light up. and that was like my nightlight in my room.
Cool.
But so I had that kind of background. Then when I first got the first plastic models, those were these actual from these kits here were
yeah,
because you had a body, you had to glue on the shield, and you had to put them on his base. That was it.
Yep.
3 pieces.
See, we got to slow walk it. Now, like if you jump in, it would just be mind blowing, I think.
And yeah, it's like the last kits I put together were this Bretonian box set. We were putting that together, and you're looking at the assembly instructions, and some of them, you got 6 to 10 different pieces you got to put together.
Yeah, and this is before they even got super complicated, right?
Yeah.
So like by now, you see the sprues. They'll show you anytime there's new releases. Some of these companies, and they show you the sprue. And it's like, holy Moses!
Yeah,
I mean that's more for just like the modeler, collector, painter. They move so far past gaming pieces, even detailed, realistic gaming pieces.
Yeah, you're looking at you're sitting there and you pick these things up, and you got a assembly book that comes in these boxes.
Yes,
and it's like, holy buckets! If I was a young kid that's never done any of this before, you would be.
Oh, your head would be spinning, and you'd probably give up fairly quickly because you'd be like, that's a lot.
Well, I just remember when my own kid, my son, he got some Christmas money, and he was like, went over to the game store, and he bought himself his first box set of Space Marines. And I helped him assemble everything because he's like, how do I do this? He never was a modeler. So that was.
I'm thinking maybe before we go and head towards the next topic, we'll just do some comments. And so there's not a ton to go through, but Chris says it's motorized, but just for walking. And I'm not sure if he's talking about the Sherman robots we were talking about or something else.
That was
no. Sorry. That's his the pad I asked about. Yeah. So it's motorized, but just for walking. Okay. Yeah. That's cool. And then I've been doing a ton of buildings, he says. And then regarding the details, this discussion, he says medium level detail for me. I want an average amount of detail due to the amount of minis I have to paint for the games I play.
Yeah.
Clyde says good soldiers wear helmets. And that's kind of what you guys are talking about.
For painting, yeah.
Chris says busts and oversized minis is back as a thing again. Okay. That's cool, though. I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there's room for all
these little guys.
Oh, it looks like Joshua is still here. I don't know. Maybe he left and came back. We were talking about your demise on the show tonight, that you were gone, but it looks like he's back. He says, I had to assemble a large army of AOS models for a client a few years back. Never again. I started laughing as I'm reading this because I kind of knew where that was going. Nothing beats the old school monopose plastics.
Yeah, I agree.
Clyde says, tried to get the wife into Warhammer. She bought 2 army boxes of Sylvaneth, started cleaning bits, got depressed at progress, and they sit unassembled in a closet. I could totally understand that because
that
honestly,
wouldn't be uncommon.
Those would be examples of Sylvaneth, Wood Elves, right? That's the new name for Wood Elves, I think. That would be a real example of where they just kind of really went far, like on the detail, and like even to jump in and do some of the basic units. Everything's got stuff hanging everywhere, like magic effects, and like everything's got wind and like fire and like straps of fabric, coming off of them and stuff.
That is a daunting thing. Is like the quickest way to destroy somebody's ambition of playing a game is have them do all kinds of work just to get to sit down and play it.
Oh yeah.
And unless you're, somebody that's, kind of been there, done that. I've built armies for years, and I'd rather they had less detail, but I got my system and I'll crank them out. But that's one thing. But if you're somebody that's fairly new to the hobby, yeah, that would be beyond daunting. I mean, I can't imagine getting into it, like some of those games with the minis that you're expected to paint with very little experience. I don't know. How would you persevere?
Yeah.
I have helped. A good example is Jesse that pops in here every once in a
Yep.
while, and I've helped him assemble many of his armies,
Mm-hmm.
and I end up usually painting them for him. But he wants to play an army, and then it's like, but we'll sit down and actually assemble everything, so he at least has an assembled army.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's a good example is that the motivation.
Because it's just when you don't learn to right away techniques that help you speed up your painting, and all the things that we've learned, and also knowing that we've all learned whether you paint the whole unit at once or we do 5 at a time or rank at a time to get whatever. From experience, we've learned how to do that, and we can. But somebody that's just trying to find their way yet, I would think you'd have a success rate that's pretty low.
Exactly.
Or retention
where
rate.
Does Games Workshop still have those push fit? Because when I was getting out of 40K, the last edition, they had started doing some of those push fit Space
I remember
Marine.
hearing about that.
Yeah, they do have some. It's some of the models. It's the smaller boxes and stuff.
Well, I was thinking that would be the perfect thing for getting somebody new into whatever game, because then they didn't have to go through all the, when you get off sprue and you got to clean it up and, fix mold lines or something like that, which is not that big of a deal anymore. But
for the most part, yeah.
To be able to open the box, clip some stuff off, push it together, and it's basically the color that you want it to be anyway. It can be like red and blue, or I'll play the red ones, you play the blue ones, and then they could get into it, and you slowly build them up to the much more complicated kits, because then they could see, well, I really want this guy, but I'm going to have to learn how to do this to get it. But to play the game, I really don't need to. Mm-hmm. So they're in, and then that next step is to take them up the scale a little bit in complexity. But now, I mean, I've seen some of those sprues. When you take them out of there, they're so tightly organized. There's a lot of that stuff. You look at it on where in the world and what in the world is that piece?
Well, and they make it so that you can build it 5 different ways with 6 different weapon choices, which is great for somebody that's a little more experienced, maybe. But it'd be, a little bit daunting.
Let's see. I got some kits. What did I do with them?
Plus, you're paying for all that plastic that you're not using.
Well,
all the options.
Here in the next level. Here is a 40K piece here. And it's like you buy the kit and you build it in a certain way, and I ended up magnetizing it.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can just have your options of everything how you wanted it on there. But
yeah,
and you've got the skill to be able to do that. Yeah,
I used to do that with the vehicles, like the Predators and stuff, and didn't have different weapon as options, and I'd magnetize the different weapons that would go on it. To where one time I wanted to have twin las cannons or something, and I'd take that one and take it off and put
the bolter version,
big heavy bolters or whatever. Yeah,
looks like Chris has got to run. See you later, Chris. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by, Chris.
Detail overkill.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Clyde's comment. We do have another topic tonight. And so this one, and I'm interested also in everybody in the comments if they'd like to share. But this is a bit of a simple topic, but it's just, what other hobbies do you have to recharge your enthusiasm in life?
That was my topic, I thought.
You want to start with that, Rusty, or actually, why don't we go opposite? why don't Tim? Why don't you go first, and then go counterclockwise, and I'll go last. Does that work?
Works for me. I have a new obsession. Well, it's an old obsession that is returned.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Women?
Do tell.
Oh, God, no, they cost too much money. Although this one is rather expensive, too. I went back, and about when I retired, I knew I needed something, I mean, that was physical, made you get out, you know, that kind of thing. Because I can sit in my hobby room for hours and paint, and in the wintertime, that's my go-to. But in the summertime, I have went back to playing golf.
Oh,
No way.
Cool.
Now, I like difficult things, and even one of the reasons I picked up painting miniatures is because I was no good at it, and it was difficult in the beginning. Mm-hmm. I mean, a matter of fact, I've got some of the very first models I ever had are still up in my cabinet, and they're horrid looking. And the process from there to here, it took some time, and I would say only in the last 15 years have I been painting to what I would call an acceptable tabletop standard. In the beginning, it was awful. I had no idea about color. I had no idea about the kind of paints. I had no idea about the brushes. I had no idea about any of it. Mm-hmm. And it was all trial and error. And I had guys around me that they were far in advance, because I was late to the gaming world. Mm-hmm. Where guys pick this stuff up when they're in their early teens or even younger. I didn't paint my first miniature until I was 33 years old.
So you didn't build model kits or anything either?
Well, yeah, I built model kits and stuff, but that's different than this.
It is, but some of the same skills.
The very first thing I ever painted, remember, Rusty may remember these, but back in the day, we had what were those electric football stadium things. You put the guy in, it vibrated. It had like
yeah.
I have one in the attic. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had one, but you had to paint the guys. And those were the very first things I ever painted. But then you take a leap from, say, age 12, 13 until I'm 33 before I pick up a paintbrush again. And it is completely a foreign world to me. Mm-hmm. Actually, gaming in general on the table was a foreign world to me. So painting was probably one of the and it's a difficult process. But as you persevere and you make mistakes and you learn and you watch, and then the best thing was when YouTube came along with videos and stuff, which then I could watch people going, oh, you used that kind of paint. Heck, the first models I painted with testers model.
My first BattleTech miniatures were with testers.
Yeah. But that difficulty thing is why I enjoy golf, is because it's a very difficult game to play, and to play it well. I'm not a guy to go out and get in a golf cart and drink a bunch of beers and act like an idiot. And whenever I do something, I want to do it as well as I can. And I have like levels, and I demand of myself to go beyond where I'm at. I need to take a next step. And that's been, and so when I'm out doing that and it's difficult, and then I can come back to this, you know, I've got that balance. See, I used to have that balance when I used to teach and train in martial arts all the time. I had my job, and then I did the martial art thing, and then was in my hobby world. And my hobby world was that yin and yang of my life, where it was strenuous and violent, and this is calming and peaceful. And so now I've got a different sort of anxiety I've created because I'm playing this very difficult game to play well. But then I can come back to this, and it again, I find that balance, and it's very pleasing. Because actually today I was golfing earlier, and it was hot, and I walk. I don't ride in a cart. I always walk. And so I walked 18 holes, which is about 4.7 miles in the heat. And it was difficult, and I didn't play well today, and it was very frustrating because I demand more. I don't like just dabbling at it, and drinking beers and acting like a fool. I want to do it, and I have where I want to say, okay, I'm here this year. Next year I need to be here, or there's something going on, because that's just the way I'm wired. And so when I have that and I come back to this is so enjoyable and so calming again. That's what so they're separate hobbies, but yet they're kind of connected in that yin and
complement each other. Yeah.
Do that. One pulls me this way and one calms me down this way. But golf is my new obsession, and because it's hard, and it requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of work and patience and listening. And what was really fascinating to me is how much more of an internal thing it is rather than an external. I've always been involved in those. If I go faster, jump higher, and go harder, I'll do better. Golf is counterintuitive to that. You do not succeed.
It's not a power sport.
Not a power sport. There's a lot of finesse to it. And that is not in my wheelhouse normally. Finesse. I'm more like a hammer. And so to learn that again is like learning how to paint a miniature from the ground up. You have to take that time, and you got to learn the process. You got to listen to people that know more than you, and you got to practice. You got to practice your techniques, your brush control. Sometimes it's I've learned it's some of my greatest mistakes is just the way I was holding the miniature.
Right.
Have you ever found yourself trying to paint and you get your hand in a weird position? It's like, why am I making this more difficult? Flip it around, and the light will show you where you're. Golf is very similar to that. It's like, don't try too hard. Just do what you need to do and be calm, and don't worry about a mistake, because you can always fix it. Just like painting a miniature, you can always fix it. It's always the next thing. So that's my new outside obsession, which brings my hobby back into balance. Because there for a little while, I was afraid that if I spent too much time hobbying, that I would burn out. I need that other thing. I need that difficult thing that's outside of this. And I chose golf, and by golly, today was very difficult. I was not very good today, which cracks me up, because last week I shot my best score ever.
On the same course?
Yeah, I broke 80. And I've never in my life, when I played as a young man, well, in college and stuff, I never broke 80. And
that's great.
And then Saturday, and then today, it was like I didn't know what I was doing at all. That it's such a fine line. It's such a fine separation between doing it well and making it very difficult. And that's why I like it. That you got to control this and control your breath, control your emotions, and relax and do all these
Let
things.
the lizard brain take over.
Yeah. And with painting, then when I get done with that and I come back and I start painting, my painting is so enjoyable. It's so enjoyable when I sit down and I have that paintbrush in my hand now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is great.
That's cool.
And so I have to have that in my life, that balance between this world and that world. And when I do, everything's better. If I just did one or the other, I don't think I'd do either one of them for very long, and I really don't think I'd do either one of them very well. I have to have that balance.
Well, it's good that you're able to figure that out, because some people I don't think
balance
can figure out, what it is, what makes them.
I'm fortunate that I really didn't have to figure it out. I had good teachers. Yeah. I had very good martial arts teachers, very wise and successful people at things outside in their business world. They were very successful. So just being around them and listening, shut my big mouth and just listen for a while. You'll learn something.
I learned something.
Yeah. You learned a lot. You start off by mimicking what people do better than you. You mimic what they do until you learn how to do it. Then you can make it your own. But you've got to learn first, then branch out and start doing it more in the way that fits your own personality. But you got to learn first.
There's a similar saying to that, kind of related, is that whenever you go to you're in a party, you should never join a group and just start talking. You should always listen to what they've been talking about first.
Yes.
And then once you see what people are talking about, you actually contribute. But that person that just comes in and starts talking doesn't even know what everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
And
so, you gotta read that room. It could be that maybe what they're talking about is an okay topic for you, but their opinion about that topic might be completely contrary to the way you believe. And you might put yourself in a very awkward situation and alienate people very quickly by espousing your opinions way too soon. Way too soon.
Unnecessarily.
Let it play out.
So Dan, how about you? What's your you started talking a little bit about it today already?
It's funny because for quite a few years here now, basically miniature painting's all I've and tabletop gaming hobby has basically been all I could squeeze in. But as my life's getting to a little bit of a different place, I'm starting to get a little bit more free time again, and so I've two things. One is, which I've done since I was very young, is board gaming. And my brothers and I, long before I didn't miniature game at all. We made up our own miniature rules with plastic army men and things, so I suppose in a way we were, but like all the Avalon Hill games, the SPI games, all those old companies that we used to play, all those complex board games. And then back, I don't know, somewhere around 2012, started to look back. It started to dig my games out. And anyway, we've been playing pretty steadily off and on since, like I said, we took a little break there maybe for 10, 12 years. But I still get together, especially in the wintertime, with my one brother, and we play, all kinds of different board games, both war games and like civilization building type games, whether it's science fiction or anyway. So I do enjoy that, and I've got a really large board game collection. So that's something that I enjoy. It's nice because none of my siblings do any tabletop gaming. They'll play with me if I've got two armies and they enjoy it, but they'll never do it on their own or have any of their own stuff. So it's nice sometimes just to load up, throw a couple games into a bag or into the car and go over to their place, and no time at all you can set it up and you play a game and you're done. There's no, miniature gaming takes a commitment of, terrain, figuring out the rules, getting your minis painted, building your armies, doing the whole thing, which I love. But sometimes it's nice just to play a game that's, where you're making tactical decisions and all kinds of different processes that you go through with miniature gaming, but not have to do all the prep that goes into that. So I think some of it's nostalgia, just because literally we were playing. My brother and I were playing Squad Leader. He was in 6th grade and I was in 5th grade. Now, mind you, we weren't playing it 100% correctly at all, but we were playing it, and we were playing Wizard's Quest, and oh gosh, what were all the different? That Robin Hood was one of them. They just had Blitzkrieg, Tactics 2, all the old Avalon Hill games, because we could order those online. So it's always been a passion of mine. It's a little bit of nostalgia to go back to that. And now the games that come out, they've got such high quality components by comparison. It's just incredible. So I still enjoy that, and I kind of keep up on the board gaming buzz to some extent on what's out there and what's on Kickstarter and who's releasing what. And so I enjoy that. But I guess the one we were talking about a little earlier that I haven't touched in probably 12 years, but I just started digging into it about 2 weeks ago, antique tractors, farm tractors. And I got into that back in, well, of course, I grew up on the farm, and we farmed with, we regularly used some tractors that were from the 50s and actually 40s also, and and newer. But when I was a kid, it was mostly through the 70s there, and so those tractors weren't considered antique back then. We had some 70s tractors too, but so I always enjoyed that, and some of my first memories of farming were using some of those, because those were the smaller horsepower tractors that Dad would set you up on the hay rake, and you go out and rake hay, or you'd start cultivating or running an auger, or just simple tasks. And so anyway, so when I got married in 93 and bought our farm here, and of course didn't have any kids, so I'm like, I want to restore an old tractor. And so especially back then, people were collecting antique tractors, but not like it got to be later here in the 2000s. Anyway, so I found a couple of the one that I was always most interested in was I don't have a picture one or anything, but it's a 1930s Farmall F20. It's a 20 horsepower tractor.
Oh wow!
But they're they're good. They're full big size narrow front end type tractors.
Yeah, it's got the 2 wheels, right?
Yeah, narrow front end. You could get it with wide front, but you almost never see it. They came on steel, and like during World War II, since there's the rubber shortage, anybody that needed new tires couldn't get them, and so you went back to steel. But yeah, so I've got a few of those that I had gotten running, and they're not painted, and there's more oil leaks and things that need fixed. But anyway, they've been all just kind of tucked back in the machine shed. So I've been trying to get the machine shed cleaned out, and so I can actually use it. And those tractors are back there, and yeah, and I finally got the 2 of them running. It took me a couple hours, but got them running, and I've got a couple other ones too that I need to get them fired up again. But I'd like to get one. When I got into them back in the 90s, I wanted to get one restored, maybe not to museum quality, but get it painted and get it so was a good solid looking tractor, running tractor, and I wanted to put it in some of the local parades with my kids. Well,
yeah,
my kids are grown now, so but now I have a grandson, and I'll be darned if I'm going to miss this opportunity. So I've got the motivation to get that done. He lives in the city, so he'll think that's cool to come out and ride with Grandpa on the tractor and be in a parade, So
absolutely.
So I'm excited about that, and yeah, I've got a couple of them that I got started and that run great. One of them I actually put into antique tractor pulls back in the early 2000s when I was still doing that, and a lot of fun with that. And so yeah, been working on those. I'm pretty colorblind, but right now what my interest is the red ones. The one that the F20 was replaced by the Farmall H, which was produced through the 40s and 50s, and then the M was during that same time period. And I've got an M that I farmed with. It was on the grinder mixture all the years that I farmed here still. So some of them are still kind of used. Got a little Alice Chalmers with a belly mower that I used to mow the lawn with before we had a lawnmower, because we got quite a bit to mow.
Yeah.
And yeah, so all those kind of got tucked back in the shed as I modernized, but now I kind of want to get them going again. It's a lot of it's a lot of fun learning the history about them, and the more you learn, you start finding out different options or what's rare and why. And you can see the farmers each kind of made the tractors their own by how they used it. You can maybe see an old loader bracket hanging on the one that you have, so you used it this way or that way. And well, it's like having a piece of history too. So at one point that sucker was brand new. It was somebody's, who knows what all that's seen and crops it's raised.
Absolutely.
And, so it's kind of fun, and it's not a terribly it can be if you want to get into the real rare ones, or you want to get it restored to completely rebuild everything with new parts. It can get a little spendy.
You want to collect more than 4 or 5?
Yeah, I do have quite a few, but I keep, it's always when I could find it like a deal, or like a neighbor or somebody. It's like, I know you're into that stuff, and it runs or it doesn't run, but if you want it, I'll just make it cheap, And so I picked up different ones through the years that way, and yeah,
you'll have to maybe you'll create a little local museum someday.
Well, there was an implement dealer that had he had quite a collection. He set up a local museum, and
a lot of places. I say that because there's a lot of stuff like that out there. You go to little towns and they have like these little museums, right? Like and stuff.
Yep. And there's gatherings this weekend. About 3 hours north of me is what they call the Red Power Roundup, which is red tractors. And so that's where they all go, and it's a 3-day event where you go, and there'll be flea markets and shows and competitions and parades, and you get together and talk tractors, and there'll be people with old implements. There'll be people doing plowing demonstrations with old equipment that we don't even use anymore. And it's just, it's a whole huge hobby. There's magazines out for it. And I mean, it's a Facebook pages. It's a whole nother, rabbit hole you can go down. But
yeah.
Anyway, so I've been messing with that a little bit while the weather's warm. It's gotten some of my attention, because then I'll get, like I said, September gets to be harvest, and that lasts until Thanksgiving. Then we got winter, and so I'm trying to make a little progress on it here before winter.
Yeah,
that's my goal. But yeah, that's exciting, and it's fun to be back into it. So
cool.
Yeah.
So Russ,
you have any? You talked about board games. Big board game. What are the favorite ones you like to play?
I like the Flying Frog games, Flying Frog Productions. They have Touch of Evil. The Shadows of Brimstone is good. Let's see. Some of my other favorites would be like, I still like and play, which actually I'm actually actively involved with. I don't know if you remember Standard Games and Publications in the 80s. They produced the Cry Havoc and Siege board games, those hex and counter games. Gary Chalk did him and one other guy, I can't remember the other guy's name. They were the two people that does. It's supposed to be a miniature game that translates into they play it on a board, and so he did all the artwork for it in the 80s there, and I bought it back in the 80s. And Siege was an expansion that added castle warfare, and it's one man is one counter is one man, and he's got 4 status. He can be either healthy, stunned, wounded, or dead, and you actually leave the dead bodies on the map. And at the end of the game, it tells the whole story. Like, oh, or this guy, and this is where the Siege combat was over here. There'll be dead horses and stuff on the game board. But anyway, that there was other expansions also, and then eventually, Eurogames was a company that bought it, and then that died out in the early 90s. But there's a French guy, Hervé Tarde, that is he's redesigned the game system, and he's producing expansions for it, and I've been the one he's been doing that since 2013, and he's had I think there's probably about five or so games that he's released in this using the same rule system, and they're I've been doing the since he doesn't speak, his English isn't spot on.
Did you say his name correctly?
Hervé is how his first name is said.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm the one that looks through the, basically proofreads the English version of anything that he writes for the game. So my name's actually in the credits, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome.
And then I get a free copy of the game when it comes out. So that's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I like those. And then the Heroes of Normandy games by Devil Pig Games is another game system that I really like. Yeah, there's too many to even mention.
So Rusty, so for Tim it was golf primarily, and for Dan it was tractors primarily. Respectfully, because I know you, I would like you to tactfully answer this question from a time perspective, because if you use the same amount of time each of them for each thing you're interested in, then I have to deal with tomorrow morning somehow. and so
you need some
Rusty, what are your interests and hobbies?
Well, let me go get my stuff. And
yeah, he's got a lot of them.
Well, it's like the biggest one. Well, it used to be like hunting and fishing, but I have to say the easiest one that I can just pick up and go is like astronomy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty big into breaking out the telescope. I got a bunch of those. Like one night we shared a lot of stuff I'd taken, pictures and all that, my gear. So it's pretty much astronomy, and I got sitting right here is my ham set. So I do ham radio. Communication. I enjoy communicating around the world with people. And right now, I'm frustrated with that hobby. Is that I bought this new computer here, and I got my US link system to connect my ham radio to my computer, so I can control it from my computer,
mm-hmm.
and then I can communicate around the world. On most, like on 5-10 watts, and I can just type with communicating now.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So it's like, imagine this: is that you got when you're talking with the voice, I'm communicating with 100 watts. Maybe talking to somebody in Britain or Germany or South America or something. Imagine this is a spectrum with my voice is like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. I can turn around and do digital and send 10, 20 watts through this much spectrum, like a narrow beam, and I can communicate with people better that way than I can with voice. Which is interesting. It's weird, but it just seems to work that way. It's I can go delve into it because it's like there's like in America we got 3 different You got technician, general, and extra, which the extra is the top level. And I am an extra. So it's like you have a lot of people. It's like, how do you even get that license? And it's like, hey, I got a physics degree. It's no big deal. I understand electronics and digital stuff and all that cool, And so that's one of my hobbies. And then the other one is the astronomy. It's like I got one telescope sitting over there with probably about $2,000 worth of eyepieces just sitting right there. So when people talk about how expensive our one hobby that we spend most of our time with, you can spend a lot of money on just miniatures. You can spend $1,000 to $1,500 just on the eyepiece alone. Yeah. Teleview is you have a telescope yourself, so you understand. You probably looked at some of these and go, "Oh my God!"
I know. I can go into a little bit of that, but it wouldn't be one of my main ones I talk about. But I do, like that is something I share, as an interest, for sure. But you have a lot of other ones, so you're being very selective. So I appreciate that. I mean, you can rattle them off if you want, but I know you have a lot of other.
There's hunting, fishing, board games,
motorcycles.
Yeah, it's like always. I want a new one. Like, but that you're talking $10,000-$20,000 for a new bike or a used one. So it can get expensive. Our hobbies.
I must feel like you've been extremely well behaved after I said that. I didn't expect you to stop so soon.
Well, I'm looking at the time. I'm just condensing it. So.
Yeah, and in all honesty, that's not why I said it. It's just more that we're going to get to the comments, and I know that you have a lot of interesting hobbies.
Well, I would say is that hobbies keep your life interesting. Is if you last time I played golf was back in high school when I quit when I hit my first hole in one, and I said, all right, I'm done. I reached perfection. I can walk away.
Yeah, perfection.
Well, I'm going to try to keep mine as short as you, Rusty, just because I'm also someone that can be really bad about picking up lots of hobbies. And also I have this probably a bad trait that I just put everything else out of my mind except for that hobby for a period of time. And I try to learn like a lifetime worth of stuff, like as fast as I can.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I do. The ones that I still do, I used to be really big into aquariums, like saltwater aquariums and reef aquariums and systems. I have a little nano tank now, which in some ways is the hardest tank I've ever owned, because the smallest amount of water that you try to maintain an ecosystem in is any imbalances that happen are magnified in small amounts of water. And so basically I used to have big reef systems in my house. And actually, when Tim was talking about the reason he liked golf, it really resonated with me as to why I got into the reef aquariums and the saltwater aquariums, because I was scared to death to get into it because of not being able. I felt like I'd never be able to go on vacation. Like, like the moment I get like a system like this in my house, I'd never be able to leave it. But it caused me to really like research it. And it combined my interest in science and sort of mechanical stuff and engineering, like in technology, with the beauty of the fish and the coral, and like understanding the water for purification, all the equipment, and like all the different ways you filter, and like all of this stuff was so interesting to me. Like I like to think of myself a little bit as a system thinker, and I like to enjoy understanding how all of these variables impact a system. As Dan's looking at me, I'm kind of thinking farming must be like that, actually, because like there's so many variables that go into being successful at something, that someone that's never done it, like myself, would probably be awestruck by like all of the things, that go into being successful. Like, that then you take for granted over time when you learn them. But basically, aquariums were like that for me. And in 1998 was when I started, without interruption, having aquariums throughout my life, and they were freshwater at that time. But just recently, I picked up a hobby in the last couple of years that, because I always had to do water changes and maintenance on the weekends on my aquariums for those many years since then, I decided to downscale like my hobby and just have a little tank that I could very easily manage and just get away from it being a huge hobby. So it still is a hobby, and I retain the knowledge and the enjoyment of it, but it's a much smaller part of my hobbies now. I've taken like a step back, but motorcycling is outside of this hobby is my biggest hobby. In the last couple of years, as like a post midlife crisis, like when I became 50, my dad and my stepdad, I was always surrounded by motorcycles in my life, but I never did them myself. When I did think about them doing them once, I just had kids. And I was like, from a safety perspective, I was really not going to do it. Like, I didn't justify it to myself. I didn't want to like leave my kids without a dad or anything. And because I didn't understand it too, like I just viewed it only as dangerous, and it is dangerous. And so I stayed away from it. But I've always been kind of to some degree surrounded by it. And I wanted to do it. And basically I have two bikes. I have like a small bike that I learned on that I still ride around town as it's just a really small engine. And I love it actually, because it's like, I actually have like 18-year-olds pull up next to me in cars, and like with my full face helmet on, they think I'm their age, because that's the kind of bike I'm riding, and they're like, I love that, and I'm like, it's so funny because I'm like in my early 50s, and it's like they don't know, but it's funny. But I have my bigger bike is probably what I would consider to be a mid-sized bike, and it's an adventure bike. It's sort of primarily highway, but you can also go on like trails and gravel. And I will take that on big trips, like where I'll go multiple day trips. And I'll also, like I used the other day even around town, but it's a much faster bike and bigger bike, and
that thing can get up and go.
Ride on. Oh, it's very fast. That's the thing is that it's not like one of these crotch rockets where people like it's 1,000 to 1,200 cc's that people see on the highway that are basically, like really, really fast. I mean, like much faster than mine. But having said that, like I can do 150K on the highway to pass semis, no problem. And so that's like plenty fast for me, in that sense. But I guess what I would say is like Rusty knows all about just about everything that I do with my motorcycling, because throughout the time that I got into it, I always kind of consulted with him because he's been doing it for so long. I have like a light that's on the back of my helmet that whenever I slow down, it's an LED light that
you got the brake.
Yeah. In the middle of the day, like it lights up so much. And
it's really cool is because when you hit the brakes, it'll light up. You feel it. So I got one too. So it's like,
yeah. And I'm very safety focused in my approach to the hobby. Like I took safety courses, and I do whatever I can, and I make every decision I make with everything that I get usually has a safety component. Even though it's still, even on top of that, it is something that you have to be extremely careful, and it's extremely dangerous hobby. But yeah, so that's my biggest hobby outside of this. The only other thing I'll say, because I feel like I've already went longer than Rusty, everybody seems to watch TV and movies and listens to music, but I consider collecting physical media for movies and music, and my interest in analog equipment for music to be a hobby. It's something that I do probably more than motorcycling every day. Just recently, I picked up a multi-disc CD player that had a fault in it, and I actually went in and fixed it, and now it works perfectly. And I actually love like analog music equipment. Like I collect vinyl and I collect CDs, and even though a lot of audiophiles, I don't really consider myself an audiophile, because a lot of audiophiles like listen to a level that my ears probably can't even hear at this point in my life. But but I really, really enjoy collecting films and music. And so that's probably another really big hobby of mine. It always feels when people ask what your hobbies are like a really weak answer, because everybody watches movies and listens to music, like to some degree. But I enjoy collecting. I have, the last time I showed it on a particular video on Heresy Productions was many years ago, and it's grown so much since then. My audio and TV library, or movie library, I should say. So that's my other thing, But and then I dabble, and I'm actually trying to get more into astronomy, and I do have a telescope. That's another thing where Rusty and a friend that I actually have known since college are really into astronomy, and so I'll consult with the two of them at times. But I'm just sort of dabbling in that. I don't really consider that to be one of them at this point, because I'm not that advanced and I don't have that much stuff. But yeah, so that's kind of it for me, with what I like to do for the most part. But we have actually quite a bit of answers on this topic. I just want to go back a second here. I think the last comment was, I have to run, I need to prime the next building, from Chris. And then we started talking about this. And so Clyde says, writing, reading, and miniatures, triad of the introverted hobbyist. And so there you go. Clark says, I'm trying to get into farming my 1-ish acre of land. I do few things that I don't consider a hobby, like weightlifting and hiking, reading, and lots of reading. Yeah. And I know what you mean by that, because lately in the last couple of months, I've been just exercising a lot more than I normally do, but I don't even like to list that as an obsession, because I feel like everybody, or some, we try to do that to some degree. Right. And it's sort of like, for me, like also watching movies, it's hard to, but sometimes those things that everybody does, you might focus on even much more, or something like that. So Clyde says, what are you farming? And Clark says, I started small. I have 4 8-foot by 4-foot beds of tomatoes, onions, and various peppers and pumpkins. Not sure if that can be called farming.
It's gardening.
Sure it is. Got 2 such beds, bell peppers, onions, carrots. Sunchokes, I don't count, as those are basically plant and forget. Like says, I have to try sunchokes.
I grow grapes, brew beer, make wine, have bonsai trees. Mm-hmm. There's some other hobbies. So.
I remember you've mentioned plants quite a bit in the past. I have to try sunchokes. Next year, I would like to have more success out of the beds I have, and then plant a small sunflower bed and maybe add potatoes. Wife bought me books, so I'll read those. My soil's pretty garbage, clay and rock. This says Clyde. I need a compost in a larger scale to help. Got more talk about the gardening. And then I hear you're still in the dabbling stage. I'm glad my gardening skills have carried over raising my kids. Cool. Yeah, so that's awesome. That's awesome. Very cool. But we all, it sounds as if every single one of us has mentioned something that parallels probably the kind of minds that get into wargaming and hobby. You know what I mean? So whether restoring tractors, I know I have a relative that actually is really into restoring old cars, has a 6-car garage, and is just tremendous in restoring cars. But restoring vehicles is requires a lot of research, and also is multifaceted. Fixing an engine versus fixing a seat cover, there's just so many different aspects. And then golf, I don't know really well, but because I tried it and didn't do well at it, I know that like you said, Tim, has a world of components to it, like, as far as the mental aspect, the physical aspect, and how like it's not just about like working out physically and getting pushing your way through overpowering it.
Yeah, you're not going to overpower golf. Nope.
Musty, what you were saying about your hobbies, like whether it be like astronomy is a good example, like it's just that's tremendous amount of factors into doing, and there's all different types of astronomy too, and it's really in-depth. And then like with the aquariums, it's kind of similar for me, like like when I was that part as well,
the pressure, salt, coral, or
and just every tank is different, like how you choose to filter it, and like everybody, like even the inhabitants of it, like everything changes, like with all the choices, like but then like in the minute, for there's so much aspects to decisions and choices and wargaming and the hobbying and how you do it, kind of makes sense to me that would have very parallel hobbies.
Ex-Signaler, I was part of the Signal Corps. That was my first delve into, which is how I passed my first license from what I knew from the Army. I just went in and took the test for the shits and giggles and like, hey, you got your license. Like, cool.
I don't even know that this is a hobby, and actually anybody that, in my limited experience, anybody that I've known that's been related to farming, Dan, has been somebody that usually had to learn how to fix a lot of stuff themselves. And usually was a mind that, like, you have to do so many like wide variety universal things. But as I've gotten older, what I've realized I really like to do is I really love fixing things. And I know like there's like a dad component to that, like but also like in one of my last jobs, I actually was involved with like fixing an X-ray machine and like a dental machine and like some just like equipment that I knew nothing about, like, you know what I mean, but was able to fix it. And then, that kind of translates to my life at home too, in my house, and just lots of things. And I found that it's accelerated as I've gotten older, because I think you gain life experience, like,
that's the big thing.
YouTube is huge, and then like even when I did like the X-ray machine, like it wasn't me just going in and like messing around with like X-rays and stuff, like radiation or whatever. Like I actually had the company involved too, but I was the one on site and doing it all. And then like same thing with the dental, and so it's funny because when I fix like my CD player, which is like a huge jukebox CD player, it's like a 25 disc CD player. It's not like
cool.
And to me, like, the value in fixing it was worth more than the cost of a more expensive new one in some ways.
Oh, I know. Well, it's that rewarding feeling too that you fixed something that was, like dead. And you did it yourself, and you learned something from the process using things that you've learned, like you said, life experiences, and then getting enough confidence to try it, and then to know when to say when. I mean, even when I'm working on stuff, there comes a point when either you need to phone a friend or call in an expert. But you find out the older you get, if you're learning along the way, that you can get deeper in each time. And 20 years ago, those kinds of things you'd never tried, but you've gotten there from baby steps.
And I've done stupid things too, like on one of my cars. I have a car that's 20 years old, and it had this stupid sensor in the hood that went the fritz. And every time I would park the car, the alarm would go off, like, and the whole neighborhood would hear it, because it's basically a safety sensor that if anybody tries to lift your hood, like break in, that it sets the car alarm off. But this thing would just basically, so I knew if I was going to replace this sensor, that it was going to cost me like $500-600, right? So what I did is I just researched it, and I found this sensor, and I disconnected it, And now always the car says the hood's open, but it runs just fine. But the alarm doesn't go off. But whenever you turn the car on, it's like hood's open, and and I'm like, nah, no, it's not. But the alarm's not going off too.
Fixed it.
Then, yeah, and it's basically fixed as long as you understand it's a 20-year-old car and it says the hood's open when you turn the car on.
Yeah, right.
And it's just stupid things like that. But I love it's almost a little hobby of mine to try to fix things and figure things out like that.
Yeah,
but that might just be a lot of people. I don't know. It's not really a hobby,
Well, a lot of times you got as when you're young, you don't have the money to call somebody else. Sometimes you just got to figure things out.
That's on the farm. It was always that way. And not only did I need to get it going now, but I didn't have money and so you'd figure out, well, if I, things that you can try. I mean, not proud of it, but I jumped a lot of safety switches.
Well, farming's a business. And so basically you have to manage the business, and managing the business means don't always have somebody coming in charging $200 to $300 to do something that you can do.
Show up on your property. Before they fix anything, it costs you $300.
Yeah, you got to wait 3 days for them to come out and fix it, and then send you this huge bill. So I'd be like, well, maybe I can make it run now, or at least make it run for now, and then we can fix it right later. I was a master at that. Just get it going is what we called it. And then fix it. It wasn't making it worse, but we didn't fix it. We made it run.
And that's the important thing, especially if you got a deadline, you got something that has to be
usually
done.
The weather is coming in hard on either voiding rain or calendar dates or whatever. It's always you're racing time in Mother Nature.
Yeah.
It's funny. The most complicated thing, and this may sound stupid. It may make me seem stupid depending on the context, if you know what I'm talking about. But the most complicated thing that without any knowledge I was thrown into maintaining on my own was an in-floor heating system that was connected to a boiler system that basically shot antifreeze through a floor, but it was gas, and it was like very much an equilibrium of pressure and temperature, and this system had so many ways of going wrong, and it had its own furnace. Oh no, that's not true. It had two zones. It was for my cabin. It had actually the regular hot water heating, but then a separate zones furnace just for this system. So you literally had a furnace that had two parts to it, and then you had all of this stuff. And I actually took that on in 2013, and man, I felt like I was running a starship sometimes when I was having to actually deal with this thing. I realized, but I truly couldn't believe the amount involved with it when they installed this system and the amount and it's just funny. It was just I had it for 10 years and it worked great when it worked, but then finally when it went south, I just put it in just a basic electric floorboard system, just as simple as it gets, on a thermostat. And so I didn't have to worry about it, because I was always worried up here in Canada that thing was gonna, when I wasn't there, was because it was the sole form of heat, was going to freeze my water pipes and stuff because we didn't winterize, we always used it in the winter, and
that'd make you nervous.
I know I'm getting into it. We're at 10:22. I'm getting into the weeds here, but it is my second Jameson after the beer. I don't know if you guys heard. I didn't even realize I hadn't opened that bottle. I cracked it. I could hear the crack when I opened it. But yeah, no, that was one of those things that was early in my journey of fixing things on my own. But sometimes you can get in over your head too.
Yeah, been there too. Yeah. So that's how you learn.
Yeah, the first time you cut a fender off a car and have to weld it back on, it's that's a pucker moment. You're never done this before. Yeah. You're here it goes.
And it'll be better next time. And the next time.
I had a close I did stupid things. I had a close relation get into a fender bender with the bumper, and it was like that hard plastic bumper, like it on the corners. It wasn't like metal, and I didn't have the tools, so I took a drill and I just drilled holes like in a complete right angle, and then I took like a hacksaw and I just cut a piece of that plastic out just so it could dry because the tire was going against the plastic, like because it was bumped. And so just to make it work, and because I needed to cut it out, I just made a whole bunch of holes with a drill, and I actually cut along all the holes.
You can get creative when you need to.
Yep.
Rubbin's racing though.
Yep.
Yeah, that's for sure. Get her going. Anyways,
Worry about the aesthetics later.
Yeah.
It was towards the end of its life. Like it was like I generally wouldn't do that on a car that I just bought or something, but it was more, this was just like getting it down the final stretch.
Yeah. I know what you mean there.
Anyway, those were cool topics tonight. It was really great to get together for a summer show.
Yeah. First time.
Absolutely.
Yep. We'll just
We
have
still
to
have
do
a
it
few
in
people
July.
in the chat here. I'm hoping that folks have gotten some painting done. I actually have highlighted up. This is like a very small amount to do, but in the second hour of our show, after we did our updates, I highlighted up the orc skin. So it actually, this is the first highlight. And so, but it actually makes them pop quite a bit more already as far as already you can start to see the skin more. Like, I think that's a good shot there. My first paint is usually a dark paint. This is the mid-tone, and then I'll do another highlight. But already they're starting to look more like orcs. You can see some of the green and stuff there. So that's kind of cool. Makes me a little excited. What about you guys?
Oh,
here we go, Rusty.
Painting.
Nice.
there you go.
All I have to do is finish the interior. I'm probably gonna go black so that gold will stand out. And I still got to work on the spear with the wood aspect, and then I got to put a steel rim around the shield and then do the edging on the base and flock it.
Nice.
So, a bit of work yet to do,
but some progress made.
Yes.
Progress for you.
Let's just say I painted 100 eyes tonight.
Oh God!
Oh Lordy!
Just after Tim said, "I don't paint eyes," you're like, "I painted 100 eyes."
Let me claw my eyeballs out.
Oh God!
Paint 100 eyes.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about orcs is that or goblins, their eyes are small and they're red. I just make them red.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
good.
that's easy enough. That's not so bad.
Yeah, and then I went over after I put the red in the eyes, and I went over again with the skin tones over that, and it's kind of blended over top to the eyelids and stuff. So
cool.
Nice.
Looks good.
How about you guys?
Yeah,
did you guys work on stuff? You got
more progress on my terrain.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
There
just
you go.
starting to.
Yeah.
Just getting. A long ways to go. It's quite a few steps, but I'm sticking with the same process that I started the project with, and so they'll all match, which is my goal.
When you get into Conflict 47, those will look really good on that terrain.
That's true. That'll be perfect. I could see a werewolf peeking through that window.
German.
Getting ready to devour someone.
Somebody wants to paint them up. That'll be fine. Bring them over.
Bring them over.
Russian werewolf in Stalingrad. This could be the next edition. Instead of American werewolf in London.
There's a weird World War II board game too. So yeah, it'd be cool. Just not on my priority list.
Yeah.
Tim, how about you? What you been up to?
I
saw your
the
glasses on right away. Oh, nice.
Yeah, nice.
Still working away on them. Let's see.
Still working away on the Dark Age. These are. Gosh, I can't remember if these are like the old Wargames factory or the gripping beasts?
They're like the old Roman auxiliary style.
No,
for the Brits.
No,
It looked more like gripping beasts.
That or earlier, I should say. This is more 1066 period. Stuff. So, yeah. But I don't know who the manufacturer. They come in like from Warlord Games, like in their starter box and stuff. But the original, I think, is the old War Games factory thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Warlord Games has a lot of the War Games factory.
Yeah, and I think you can tell because of the stupid way they put the hands and the weapons and stuff. They're really horrible. Actually, they're not well done. I mean, but they were cheap.
Don't sugarcoat it, Tim.
It was pretty cheap to get like 40.
I remember painting up about 200 of those things back in
AWI.
Some time back for somebody that had them. I got to have been about 15 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, they haven't changed any. I've got some of the Victrix stuff, the late Saxon Victrix, and I'll be interested to get those out and see those. They're more modern sculpts and stuff. They'll be really top notch. I've had Victrix stuff before, and it's never disappointed. Never.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like Victrix 2 are one of those miniatures that's not loaded with details. That's a real gamer's piece.
They tend to be more historically accurate, although people will argue that their horses are too big, especially their ancients' horses, because
I've heard that
back in the day
they've been by ponies. They should have been.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, though. When it comes to historical horses and ponies, the worst thing in the world is when the guy is like Andre the Giant on a pony, like that look.
Yeah.
And this is my opinion. Like, I understand what you mean, because like
historically that's correct, though. For the most part, the horses weren't that big, and so that's why a lot of them weren't used in combat for the longest.
But it does look bad when everybody looks like the world's strongest man on a little pony.
Smallest horse. Yeah.
That look I have trouble with. Like, I don't like that aesthetic.
I think that's why, like on the gaming table, people like that more beefy look on the horses and stuff. Like a lot of the medals from Warlord Games, I had several of those for like in my Romans and my Persians, and those horses were just so skinny, so frail. Like I magnetized everything, and a lot of them had like little metal spears that came with them. Well, I put the magnet on there, and the ankles on the horses were so thin that over time I would open my cabinet up, and you see the guys going just from that small magnetic pull over time. I opened it up one time, and one guy, he's like all the way over. It's like, okay, now wait a minute. So I switched a bunch of those out for War Games Atlantic's little box set that they came out with, those horses instead, just a generic horse. Now they're a little bit big for the rider, but I don't know. I would rather have something that looks a little too big on the gaming table than something that looks like it's about this wide, got little bitty tiny ankles. It may be historically accurate, but boy, it looks terrible.
Well, you have to really like the aesthetic and that you're working with, and many of you guys know, like I really love the Minden miniatures, like for French and War. And there are people that don't like them. Like, there are people that actually prefer the heroic scale, and they feel like Minden miniatures look like teenagers. But in many respects, my defense of that would just be that in the same way you guys talked about the old cars, and you talked about from the past, and like, when you talk about houses and beds and how small people were, and nutrition, and like people like were not like huge bodybuilders, like in
Yeah.
like French Indian
Most
War.
people are between 5 foot and about 5'6".
Yeah. And in all honesty, I really love the aesthetic like of the Minden, but that's my personal taste. And I also like many others, and I like the Perrys, like the Perry look, and the Perry look is very different than the look of the Minden, but they're both really nice in my opinion. Like I like lots of different ones, but you fall and you really like your aesthetic that you enjoy, and then nothing is perfect.
Right. I mean, you got to be inspired to paint what you're painting, right? Otherwise,
and nothing's perfect.
No.
Right.
No. And it's about what you're going for as far as the look goes.
Yep.
Sure, we could nitpick on everything if we really wanted to in our hobbies. I mean, that pouch is carried on the wrong side. They never carried it this way, and that kind of stuff. It's like,
sure.
Don't worry about it. Let's just get in there, enjoy the hobby, paint, play, just,
Yeah, and even people that are really into historical accuracy on their YouTube channels once in a while say, well, they painted this way, but they knew it wasn't right, but they liked the look, and that's what they did.
Yeah,
exactly.
And they're unapologetic about it, and absolutely. And if you don't like the look of the smaller horse for the ancients, maybe that was accurate, but it bothers you, then don't. They get some that are bigger.
Well, and the thing was that they were the right height, but they were just so thin.
But I've heard other people comment, especially like Roman horses and all different scales. They're like, they look like ponies, and it's like, well, apparently they were like ponies.
Yeah. Well, you didn't.
They didn't charge into battle with them. They were for transportation mostly.
The cavalry that did use it was more of a swirling,
harassing type thing, right?
Well, then we had cavalry on cavalry. It was more of a swirling, sort of throwing javelins, slashing with swords. There was no impact. If you did, it was by design. It was you did something wrong.
Yeah, okay.
That's just not the way it was. There's a great example of that sort of cavalry at the Battle of Pharsalus when Pompey was facing off against Caesar. Pompey had the numbers in cavalry. He had like 7,000 horsemen, and Caesar barely had 2. So what he did was he took a few cohorts of heavy legionnaires with their pilum, and he said, don't throw them, just take them and stick them in the faces of those horses. And so these guys, when they ran the Roman horses off, because just by sheer weight of numbers, but when they weren't ready for that heavy infantry behind, because cavalry did not charge heavy infantry, no matter what you see on a tail, that just did not happen. If you caught yourself in that situation, you really did something wrong. And what happened was those few cohorts, which that a cohort about 440 guys, say he had 3 or 4 of them, you're talking maybe 1,600 guys, put to flight 3 times their own number in horsemen. Because you weren't up high enough to get away from them. You're kind of like almost at eye level. Your horse isn't that big. They're stabbing the horse in the face really close up. And so the horses aren't liking it. You're just not equipped to fight that sort of a fight on horse. And that was one of the turning points in the battle, because what Pompey's plan was to run Caesar's cavalry off, sweep around, and get them from behind and in the flank and that sort of thing. You not have to run straight in a straight up fight. You do that, you're done. And Caesar knew it was coming, and he had an answer for it. But that's an example of that sort of ancient cavalry was not impact cavalry. That didn't happen until you started getting into the cataphracts of the Eastern Parthians and that sort of thing. So And even them, they weren't like, they didn't charge with like a couched lance. The way they used their long Kanto spears was overhand like this. And what they did was they more moved at a trot, close together, because they're armored from head to toe. But what they did was they just used the weight of the horse and the weight of the rider with that long spear just to keep pushing,
force them back. Yeah,
almost like a mounted
pike
warfare. But Caesar had an answer for them too. So
he also said, "Cowards die many times before their deaths, but the valiant never taste of death but once."
But once.
Yeah.
Tim's laughing because he's like, "I've heard this before so many times."
Yeah, and so much for wise words from the victors. You know, I don't think the guy that got their butts kicked so often were so lyrical about it.
Well, eventually Caesar was gone too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Well, everybody.
I'm gonna have to call it.
We're well past our normal time, but I've really enjoyed it. We only do it once a month now, so it's been fun.
Yeah,
we had a little bit of a finale tonight. Thanks everybody for joining. That's still on. It looks like we still have 3 viewers on, and thank you everybody. We enjoy your comments and hanging out with us. I hope that you guys got some stuff painted tonight while hanging out with us tonight. And we will see you in about a month, I would say. It's give or take. I think we're doing give or take based on everybody's summer schedules. So we will let everybody know beforehand when it is.
Right.
At least within 48 hours, like tonight. So, all right, everybody.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
See you, everyone.